You know, we must have like sound barriers with this. 'Cause
That's what it feels like.
It is, yeah.
Gentlemen, if you'd like to take your mask off when you're sitting in these
Yeah.
little cones, you're
Well,
more than welcome.
I can talk loud.
Well, no, it's just, you're more than welcome to.
Thank
We're
you.
ready.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yes,
okay, we're on. So who's gonna be talking today?
both?
I will, I'll start.
Okay, good.
Thanks for just a moment of time. Just trying to figure out what next steps we need to take with this gym project. So,
Well, I can answer that for you, and we apologize, there's obviously been some miscommunication to us, and the whole thing has not been done in the manner that it's supposed to be. And so, I did talk to NDS this morning, and they do have an application on file, and she's saying that, the way the process works is they have, the deadline to apply for those funds is through the end of this month. And then they will start reviewing them in March, and then they start coming into us to actually make the recommendations. And I asked her today, because of this, the way this one has rolled out, and because apparently they did have an application, even though the three of us were told they did not, that she would probably be looking at either coming in the second Thursday or maybe the third Thursday of this month to present on your application. And that she would reach out to you folks to come in, because that's normally how it used to be. I mean, we'd always have the applicant a lot of times come in case we had questions that they couldn't answer, or if you wanted to tell us information on it. So it looks like it will be this month. And as far as Stacy's concerned, she said she does not see any problem with getting the recommendation to approve it. So that's where we're at.
And by the looks and sounds of everybody, there seems to be some type of time constraint that I don't get. So can you address?
in terms of construction.
Whatever the sense of urgency is at this time, I don't get it, because the grant is usually given, what I've been told, sometime beginning of March normally. And I know this by your information that you gave yesterday, September 20th, so there's a time frame. But every time that I hear this sense of urgency that I haven't quite figured out yet. And could you tell me?
Sure, well, from our end.
Well, can I say something?
Sure.
That's Tony, we're on the same page. See, that's the urgency that I've been told, is that we have to get this project up and going, or we're gonna lose that state funding. See, that's.
State funding from the other one that you have,
We have-
or this?
We have two of them.
Yep.
We have one from
The
the
other one.
state,
Yeah,
and we
okay, yeah.
have one from the Mental Health Recovery Board.
Right.
And yours is.
Yesterday-
Ours is
Yours
the
is,
third.
yours is the third one
Right.
that puts this project in
Right.
go. So I'm like you, are we gonna lose this state funding if we don't
Right.
get moving on this?
So is there a date? I mean, because I received that at 6:30 last evening when I got home from the office. So is there a date for the other two? This one, there isn't a date, because March is the time frame that was supposed to be given. And that's where I think this whole thing got off rail, because people talked and did things out of order. Is there a deadline to get this project going for the other two grants that you have?
Certainly the mental health board, I think, is willing. There's a board member sitting right there. I assume that.
What about the big one?
Well, the state one, they keep asking what's the status. I mean, they
Okay.
granted that money almost 2 years ago.
Really?
They're like, what in the heck's going on in Portage County?
Well, then you can call them today and tell them.
I mean, that's what I need to know. What can I tell them? Because I'm not, what I heard you say is that in a week or two,
Yeah,
she would be able
and
to
she would
come to you.
also, Mark, reach out to you, because I said, and you should reach out to the King Kennedy Center, Family Community Services, because in the past, we would always have you guys come in case we had questions, or you wanted to tell us something that maybe is not in the application. But she said, after reviewing the application, she does not see there being a problem to make the recommendation to us to approve it.
Well, I would certainly hope not. She's the one that, they are the ones that suggested
And
using this source of funding. It would be a little disingenuous to tell me now That it wouldn't be.
Yeah, and
allowed.
now that we've,
That's
it
why
took,
I'm here.
it
because
took the annoyance
I've been
of
through this
me
process.
Friday and everybody else, and Vicky and Sabrina, till we all started hearing about this, where the glitch was. And so that has, now that we understand where the glitch was,
Yeah.
and it wasn't you that made the glitch.
Oh, that I'm.
That's
fairly
pretty
sure of.
good.
That, and I've got lots of paper trail that pretty much assures
You did,
you of that.
and I appreciate
So-
you providing that to
That
me.
is.
That was the last piece of the puzzle for me last night.
Good.
I wish I
was able to.
I wish I would have had it sooner.
Whatever, that's fine.
That's right.
So when I'm clear, they are going through their normal process in
Mhm.
March.
No, now,
They are
Right
going through the
now.
normal process now.
She said in a couple weeks, in the
Couple weeks.
February,
Yeah.
she's gonna bring it to the commission.
They have a deadline of February, the last day of February, February 28th, to accept all the applications and for the revolving loan funds. And then they have a meeting the first Friday of March. And then that's when they go through, they sort out and they will then start making a list of recommendations to bring into us. And I said, well, since they've had this out here forever, I said, what is the soonest, staying within the process that we should expect you to be coming forward with this? And she said either the second, possibly the third Thursday, because we meet every Thursday, and that she would be reaching out to Mark, I think, Mark or Frank, to come in with them to present to us. And I said, well, do you foresee any issues with this being approved as a recommendation? And she said, no.
Okay, so let's get one. Mark is the fiscal, Mark, that's his.
so I was just
that's
gonna,
his
I was just gonna ask that
That's his
question.
agency. I'm a community person.
Right.
And I've been the community person along with Connie and other people in this community from day one on this project, moving it along.
So you're the steam that keeps Mr. Pizzone going for you, because
Yeah.
you want the community to have that. But
I'm starting to like you even more,
Well,
brother.
you gotta watch yourself when you say
Okay,
stuff like
I
that.
know, but on this one, at least we agree on
Okay.
this one, all right?
But that's it. So Mr. Pizzone is the person that we're really talking to, and you're the community that's
Right.
behind that.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Right.
but it's my
And if you have problems and
understanding.
get none from him, you call me or Connie and we'll get that straight.
I got another
And then
connection
We will be on him the
to
whole
push
time. So-
push his buttons.
So let's get past this, because this is a question.
Go ahead,
You
go ahead.
said some things that I want to make sure I'm right. Okay, so I know it's NDS, and then you guys are already saying it's approved, but you're saying to us, there's other people in the process. So is it possible we could not get this money?
Only if NDS made the recommendation that you did not qualify, but that's not my understanding,
Okay,
is that.
that's all I need to hear.
there's-
You just answered,
Yeah.
both, the three of you just answered my question. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And I wanna go
And have
back-
a nice day. I
I
don't want to
wanna-
keep your time.
Frank, I want to go back
You're under
to,
3 minutes.
Hey, that's me.
Tony,
Sorry.
I want to go back to reaching out to you because it's my understanding Stacy has been in contact with
Yes.
you throughout the process. So
Right.
I think that's why she will be reaching out to both of you to come in, not
fine.
excluding Mark or
Oh, no.
one or
you
the
got it.
other.
These are-
I think
These
she
are- this is-
feels that, that she would, reach out to both of you to make sure the message gets through and that you guys know it's out.
Well, I know you guys have a docket, Mark. I'm done.
All right.
Well,
Make
I'm
me
not,
feel
well,
good.
I'm not,
Okay, okay.
I'm just not done, because I'm concerned about what you just mentioned.
Okay.
You don't know what's gonna be presented to you by NDS. You don't know what's coming in the door. You don't have any of those, unless you do, but you couldn't, because the process hasn't even
No,
unfolded yet.
but what I can say is Stacy did say to me, she has reviewed it herself. Now it goes to the committee, but she said that,
I appreciate
she
that,
does
yes, I agree
not-
with that, but what if she reviews others that come in? What if she, this is,
The likelihood is very high that you're,
okay, that's what I'm at.
Very,
I
very
cannot
high.
promise
I'm not
you
asking,
today.
you can't promise me anything.
But the
which
likelihood
makes
is
me a
very
little
high.
concerned, because you can't.
I've been concerned about this whole process. In the process, that word, that P word, Supreme Court ruling was rule of reasoning. So that's process.
yeah.
I guess, I think a lot of the confusion came in because we haven't always followed the process.
Yeah, no.
When we gave that 3,000 to Ravenna, I don't remember any process being followed.
But that wasn't from our revolving loan funds, was it?
And months ago, I worked on this for a long
Julie.
time.
Well, Todd and
And I
I think
talked
it's
to Mike Bogo, and he said, I said, is there any way we can help this King Kennedy Center? And he said, absolutely. He said, revolving loan funds, he said, that's money that you can, as commissioners, can do anything you want to with. He never mentioned any kind of process that we needed to go through. And I said, I think that's where the confusion comes in, because this word process keeps coming up.
Well, I can answer that, because the reason that the process was put in place like 2 years
That
ago.
was CDBG money though, Sabrina, not revolving.
No, let me tell you, was because CDBG went to every other year. So what was happening was we were having people apply all throughout the year for these revolving loan funds. And then we had people complaining that it seemed like the same people were always getting the money. No one ever knew about it. And so we decided to put a process in place where, and Todd, you're here, you can speak, you serve on that committee. Didn't we like then notify like the township associations whenever, yeah, each time they were supposed to, because here was the other thing. There was a question on how it was being marketed, or if it was even being marketed to people. Because people kept saying they didn't know anything about it, and then NDS like, well, we've got people coming at all times of the year, it makes it hard, we need to sit down. So they sat down with Todd Peets, NDS, and our Todd, and then you guys came up with a process on how you were gonna handle it going forward. And a lot of it came from CDBG because it went from every year to every other year. So Todd, do you have anything else as far as how that process came about?
I mean, that is the way the process came about. Mr. Hairston actually participated in one of the meetings to talk about King Kennedy.
That was another- yeah,
At the
I've
time,
been
the
doing- I've been
project-
Doing this for a while now, guys.
Okay.
At the time, the project wasn't fully formed, and so paperwork wasn't submitted for last year's round. In fact, later in June or July, you'll recall Hairston and the doctor came. But even then, the exact dollar amount wasn't known, and there was talk
Yeah.
about where are we going to attach or not attach. At that point is when Gene was asked to get involved and sort things out. Gene met with Hummel. I believe he met with Mr. Frazone and some of the community members. That's where this $127,000 figure then finally came from. At the time the paperwork came forward, it was realized that their major funding source was a mental health care grant. And so at that time, I turned to Gene and said, depending on the reasons that they qualified for mental health care, the fact that there is no more money in their budget, this is an unappropriated expense to a health entity, we may be able to use CARES. We need to get a hold of Dr. Garrity and figure out why this project qualified for that grant. We never did get the details from Dr. Garrity. And so eventually the mental health aspect, which is the most important aspect, was kind of dropped off. And that's when Chris Maduri said, well, without, if it's just a capital project, CARES doesn't apply.
Mhm.
Once we got that, Gene got a hold of Mr. Frazone to then get some more information so that it could go through the revolver. Mike Bogo got involved. We had a meeting, I believe it was in October, where Kathleen Clyde attended. And Mike pointed out the fact that, work has to stop. If you're using federal funds, an environmental review has to be done beforehand. That environmental review was just completed last week. That's what the commissioners did a journal entry to submit just last week. So we applied for a waiver for the project, and that's what December's journal entry recognized. We've done the environmental review on the project. That's what was done 2 weeks ago. So the project is ticking off the boxes needed to become a revolving project. The only question that remains is whether the board wishes to have this project proceed with all the other 2021 projects. And our goal is to have the recommendations to the board in March.
Mhm.
Whether they want all the projects to come forward and you'll fund as much as you have money available for at that time, or whether you want to do this project ahead of that and then do the rest whenever they come in March. we had asked, NDS in particular, to ask Mr. Frazone, and now that he's here, he could speak to it directly, whether waiting until March would impact this project in a negative way such that they would lose funding or et cetera. And to my knowledge, a response hasn't been given. I haven't received that response. The board's direction from a week ago was that if there was anything that was going to imperil the project, that I'd come back to you. And I have not been given any information. That's why I haven't come back to the board. The last directive from the board was that we go through the process, evaluate all the projects as a group, and bring you that ranking sheet like we did the last time. So currently, that is the plan that we're proceeding under.
Okay.
If the board wants to proceed a different way, it simply needs to say so.
Well, I think it sounds like we can stay within the process, even though this has been very convoluted and totally way off of the process. And then they can come to us in like 2 weeks. I know 2-3 weeks, Stacy said.
We've got a meeting tomorrow. In fact,
Yeah.
Vicky's going to attend it to set the schedule. And the schedule is to be fairly aggressive and get these
Okay.
projects listed and ranked.
You're on this committee for NDS?
Yes.
I am currently the board's appointee. Anyone else can,
No, my question is did we know that there was application in September of last year?
we did. And there was a meeting in October to discuss the fact that this was out of the norm.
Okay.
And nothing really ever proceeded from there. Like I said, the project was sent to the state because we're going to use housing funds. We needed a
We need a
waiver
waiver.
in order to achieve that. And so at that time, it was sent down to ask if we could get a waiver, and we did receive that. And I believe that, to my knowledge, that's what the December journal entry was acknowledging, was that we had received the waiver and indeed these funds could be used. But in terms of the loan agreements and whatnot, nothing has ever been executed
Right.
as of.
Yeah, I was I asked that question about the application because I had a fun conversation with Mr. Fazone last Friday. And then he sent one home for me. And so I was under the impression as of last week, there wasn't a loan application. And what I received last night is that we had it since September.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's correct.
Your
That
goal,
was just not the information.
I
Yeah.
think the concern that Mark was stating there is when this first came up in the meeting, which I was completely blindsided, it was stated in this meeting that we did it unfairly. This has to be offered to others. And I think
Mhm.
that's what was.
Yeah.
Because then they think,
Mhm.
well, you know what, if it's gonna be offered to others, then.
We can be rejected.
Well, because it's avoiding the process
Yeah.
that we put in place so
Well,
that
the goal-
it is fair. and
the
equitable.
goal of the process was to have individual projects stop coming to the commissioners
Yes.
throughout the year. And then the commissioners trying to have to figure out, well, what pot of money does this come from?
Yeah.
The reason NDS and RPC are working together is they will collect projects throughout the year. And so there's nothing wrong with, for zone having turned
And
something in
early.
September. The idea is early spring is when the evaluation period occurs, partly because that's when the new grant cycles for the new year typically begin. CDBG starts in March. A lot of your first quarter grants are due in March. And so the idea was to have these projects ready so that we could determine which funding sources they would fall into.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Well, thank you, commissioners.
Hey, Todd, can you answer one more thing? The funding that we gave to downtown Ravenna for the signage, what fund did that come from?
That came from the general fund.
That's what I thought. I don't know why. Vicky was under the
Right.
impression it came from revolver, and I said
And we
no.
actually haven't even written the check yet because we're still waiting for the agreement on that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
been,
I got a call about it last week.
well, Todd Peets is supposed to be working on
Mhm.
getting something for us to explain what it is that we're participating in.
And what we're getting for that.
Yeah, and then once we have that agreement in place, then the county, but that'll be general fund money on that
Okay,
particular
Okay.
project.
thank you.
Well, thank you.
All right,
Well, thank you, guys. Mark's got a moment.
I just have 1 second if I could. 2 things I would ask the board to consider, since we are clearly way ahead of anybody potential applicant. We've been at this game now for 6 months. I've sent things to NDS and I've sent them to Gene Roberts 6 months ago.
Mhm.
We have the ER back from the state. We have everything teed up here. If we could just, if you, as Todd said, you sort of have the ability to say, well, let's do this one and then deal with the balance of the funds with the ones that come in March. I would request that you at least consider that, since this is not an even playing field, so to speak, because we are just eons ahead because of the situation. And
Yeah, and the
Situation notwithstanding.
misunderstanding.
The likelihood is very great again.
I
Yeah,
understand, but if it's very great, then I would argue then just plow
Well,
through.
We've had that different argument
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
We might.
But yeah.
But I would
Yeah,
also
yes.
leave you as just my own personal opinion.
Thank you.
yeah.
Take it as it will. Why you would ever, as a board, want to tie your hands to these kind of flexible funds that don't have ties that come with them? So you could potentially, what happens if a great project comes before this board that you want to see happen for economic development or the airport, and it comes in June or it comes in September? You're going to say, oh, well, you missed the deadline. The deadline for this was March or February.
Basically,
Yeah.
that's March. This is King Kennedy. We're
Thank you.
done.
Have a good afternoon.
You deal with him on his conversation. That wasn't part of.
That's a good beer question.
Thank you for
For bourbon.
your support. That's all I
Bye,
want to say.
Maya.
That's all
See you
I
guys.
want
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Maya.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, just curious.
All right, what time, oh, you got,
Sure.
is Attorney
Thank you.
Esposito
Thanks.
yet?
Bye-bye.
I don't know what he looks like. Oh, yes, Larry's here.
No, Attorney. I know.
Well, is Esposito with you?
I've not seen anybody.
Okay. Come on in. Front and center, sir.
No.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate
See
it.
you guys.
Hi there.
Hey, Larry.
Hi there.
We got a couple of minutes.
Hey, Maya.
Yeah.
Sunny day, Maya.
You having fun yet?
Hey,
Later,
guys,
Mark.
thank you.
See ya.
Thank you.
I have a hard enough keeping track of one phone.
Keep track of what's happening at the office. I gotta keep track of my stitches.
Of your what?
My stitches. Was Esposito supposed to be here?
I was told,
11:30, we were told.
I don't know what he looks
Could be
like.
here. I mean, so that, and that clock's fast, so you know.
Yeah, 7
Because
minutes.
it's really, yeah, 11:23. Because I know we have our HR person and finance will be coming in as well. I think we'll go get a drink. Yeah. Come on in, Janet
You can have,
and Todd.
start the day before.
No, they're here to listen because it has
Oh,
to
okay, okay, got
do
it, got
with
it.
finances
Oh,
and
okay. All
HR.
right, got it.
Can I ask, since we are meeting tomorrow, are we still proceeding with this project under the process, or are we bringing it earlier?
It's through the process. We didn't make a commitment today.
Okay.
It's in 2 weeks, is what Stacy said, so.
So that money may still go to somebody else?
If you guys award this.
If we award it, we still have it, even though they bring in recommendations, we still have the ability to award it. And I don't think I've ever heard anyone saying they were not interested in funding it. We just wanted to go through the process.
Is that a Zoom meeting tomorrow?
There is a link to do it as Zoom. I'm gonna happen to already be over there anyway, so I'll be there live, but she did provide Zoom links. I believe Tide Peaks will also be Zooming.
Okay.
Email from Amina. They used to work for her. Amina Hall. She said she didn't have the emails for the commissioners. She's trying to send one to all three of us.
Oh, I'm friends with our Facebook, so I don't think I have one. She's still not with Mike?
No, she's, I think something, done Summit maybe. She's a different program. She's Director of Community Engagement.
Well, that's too bad. She was
On
really good.
Akron. Yes.
And everybody got the lunch.
I know.
Is the board in session right now?
Yeah, we are.
Do you want to do the airport?
Oh, yeah, let's do it. For Todd. Oh my gosh. I think they're supposed to pick up these recycling and everything. I keep hitting.
The time will be good on our next one.
What's that?
Certified taxes.
We always do that since it's a financial matter. So what I did, I have created yet another amendment to the current loan balance that we have.
Okay.
The list that you have attached adds to around 78,000, just a little bit over. And then the treasurer indicated that they will owe 19,000 in taxes for the first half. And so that's where the $97,822.36 figure comes from. The way this is currently written is that will go on to the balance of the loan. We will write a check to the airport authority for that amount, and then they are to use it to pay these invoices plus the taxes. If that's the board's wish, then you should pass this resolution.
Okay. Great, I'll make a motion to transfer funds from 001 general fund to Portage County Airport Authority for the purpose of paying existing past due bills, plus the first half, it's 2020 taxes.
Yeah, that's the 2020.
Second.
Roll call,
Vicky,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina.
yes. Thanks, Todd.
Any word on him? Mark?
You want to check and see where he's at?
Hey. No.
Oh, there he
Hello.
is.
Oh, he's here.
Come on in.
All right, come on.
All right.
Mr. Esposito, you can have a seat right there.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Nice to see you again.
Hi.
Some news, some recycle and then all. All right.
Okay. Hello.
Hello.
You guys-
Gentlemen, you can take your masks off.
Yeah, you guys can go ahead and start.
Okay, well, first of all, my name is Michael Esposito. Thank you for having me here. I understand you guys want to meet me, for those of you who haven't, or meet me again, because I've been here before, just on another matter. I guess the reason we're here is because the sheriff's office has asked if I should go to labor negotiations representative up there. And when they asked me that, I told them, well, I'd be certainly to be willing to do it, but you need to hash that out with the board of commissioners. Because the stuff I was there for was to talk to them about some contract administration stuff, like a grievance been unknown, and it had been expressed to me at least that they were trying to kind of turn the page on some acrimony previously. What I told people is, the only people who benefit when people get a loggerhead and fight like private lawyers. That's just when it comes to a labor management relationship. Even though I'm an attorney by training, the guy who taught me how to do this a long time ago, basically said above all else, labor management, collective bargaining agreement is an operational document. You have to be able to work together. You have to be able to administer it. And so based off of that conversation, I think we plowed some good ground over there on some other things that we're going to be able to resolve about doing some streamlining in terms of the rank structure and things like that. And then they asked me about this, and I said, well, I'd be happy to do it, but I want to talk to the board of commissioners about making sure they're on board with it. For those of you new commissioner who haven't met me, as I said, I'm Mike Esposito. I'm the vice president of Clemens Nelson Associates. I've been doing this since started in 2002, and Clemens Nelson's obviously been around a lot longer than that. And we are a human resource management, labor relations consulting firm. So even though I'm a lawyer, I'm not here to be your statutory legal counsel. I'm very clear with Chris, the prosecutor's office, about that. I worked with Denise prior to Chris when she was over there on various initiatives here in the county. I think we were involved in the comp plan that you guys did to work for a bunch of officials. I also did some work for previously when it came to kind of coming in with your JFS operation and kind of like creating a giant class plan just because you had to do a reduction. We didn't have anything organized, and we were able to do that in the space of maybe a day or so. So I'm familiar with Portage County, and I'm doing the job myself. Our offices are right out of Akron. As far as that side of things, we do everything HR related and negotiations and labor relations related. The reason this firm, when it was originally founded, was some 30 odd plus years ago, was founded as a labor relations firm. But what we figured out really quickly is, you got to fight the bargaining agreement. The collective bargaining agreement has to economy and everything else. Contract about policy and all that other stuff. And so we started to practice expanded those things. And in order to do this effectively these days, it's something where you have to have both sides covered. If you don't, you negotiate a CBA, you think it's great, it's nice and sliced bread, but then when you go to administer, you find out you got all sorts of other problems on the flip side. From a management standpoint, the biggest thing that sheriff's offices communicate to me is obviously want to turn the page on some of the acrimony, but also asserting its rights to manage, structure the operation in such a way that delivers better public safety at the lowest possible cost, most efficient dollar. And from the commissioner side of things, what I've told him is, my job, if I'm representing any sheriff's office, is to bring the commissioners a contract that, from a fiscal perspective, works for them. And I said about the only thing that you absolutely can't, kind of override or get involved with is, obviously, legislative body approves contract, but when it comes to insurance, that's a whole nother bailiwick. Insurance 305-171, you guys are the exclusive authority in the county for that. And sometimes you'll see various negotiations go off the rails because they want to actually go out to a sheriff's contract or an engineer's contract and say, well, I want to do this on insurance. And you're like, time out, you can want to do whatever you want, but at the end of the day, it's the board of commissioners who makes all of those calls. So, as I said, I've been doing it since 2002. During that time, I've probably negotiated more than 300 contracts in the state of Ohio. I represent representative counties. I represent Lorraine County. I was also representing Lorraine County for 30 plus years. I've been doing it for a little more than the past decade. We flipped over in the last election. I'm still doing it right now. But who knows, politics change, things like that. I've represented Wayne County for again, the last 30 plus years. And their board of commissioners. So, my job or my mission is to, as I said, preserve management rights, deliver good contract to you, live within the fiscal parameters you set. So I guess you guys wanted to leave me here and reintroduce yourselves. I also wanted you to be comfortable with me if you're going to be good with that. As far as hourly rates go, I have a retainer under there. I think it's about 170. So I know it's significantly less than.
Is that 100? I thought you said.
I thought that's what I was told.
No, it's $170 now. I was 100, I couldn't stay. It was 120 years ago, maybe.
My misunderstanding.
Yeah.
How many, do you represent a lot of other sheriff's departments in this type of line of work?
Sure, absolutely. Just to name a few, I mean, obviously, in Lorraine County, the sheriff's office there, Wayne County Sheriff's Office too. Recently did marketing in the Summit County Sheriff's Office as well. That's just me personally doing stuff. From the law enforcement side of things too, if I went down the pipe, I negotiate with the city of Youngstown, all their labor contracts. So that's the east side of things. Negotiate for Steubenville, negotiate for Mayville Heights and Lyndhurst and other places too. We represent. I cut my teeth primarily before I got full living in Lorraine in the Mahoning Valley, doing a lot of this stuff. And at one point in time, I've obviously transitioned some of the clients, but I was bargaining for Youngstown, Boardman, Austintown, Camel, Struthers, Gerard, Camden Township, Hubbard, Niles, like that whole little collective there. That's an interesting area with me too, because it's one that's constantly been challenged with economic hurdles, decline of steel, those industries out there. And then you flip over into other areas like Cuyahoga County, where it's like its own crazy labor market unto itself. You walk outside of Cuyahoga County, and you guys get a little bit of that because you're on the borders over there.
Mhm.
But when you see that spillover effect where Cuyahoga and wages drop really fast, but they're always trying to pull in Cuyahoga County comparables and pull in things whenever you're negotiating. So it's something you have to account for, be aware of. Like I tell people in the city, sheriff's offices, things like that, if it exists in the public sector, I've represented it and we've represented it. And that's what's it's important because unlike, private sector is pretty easy, draining away, you have no employment. But you get over in the public sector and, if you're negotiating in a township, if you're negotiating in a city, if you're negotiating for a county board of commissioners, if you're negotiating for a DD, there are certain different sets of rules that apply. And by that, just to give an illustrative example, I do some speaking for the state auditor's office at times in the local government conference. I talk to people in villages and townships. I'll say things like, if you, how many people offer 4.6 hours of sick leave for every hour of service, every places? And I would say to them, I said, well, do you know why you do that? And they kind of look at me. Well, we have to. I told you to do that. What would you say? And start to get the wheels started there. Maybe I would do something more of a private sector model. Maybe I would do something that was a little more innovative. Maybe I would do it like, I'll give you 5 days of short-term leave and 10 days of long-term leave, and you only get to the long-term leave after you've been out 3 or is, you know, and to kind of deal with sick leave abuse and maybe structured benefits. And inevitably, they're always shocked to find out that that model, the 4.6 that we're under here, as a county board of commissioners, as a state civil service, that's not, doesn't apply everywhere else. People pick up things and they bring them to their entities because why? I look to see what the Portage County Board of Commissioners, and I look to see what the city of Ravenna is doing. I look to see that, and I took it. And sometimes your township officials do the same thing, you see villages. And on the other side, you will have people who come in from a municipal model in the county government, and they don't realize that, you know, you can't just snap your fingers, presto, changeo, do the things over in county government that you could in municipal government, because, you know, as county commissioners, you know, county authorities they have the authority that the law gives them, but they don't have the authority to kind of carve out a different law. So I'm juggling all those things at a bargaining table, especially when I'm dealing with reps sometimes who come at it and they say, you know, well, I just want to do this. And, you know, the insurance one is a great example. You go into a city and they're like, well, why can't we do the insurance this way? Well, okay, you got the executive, you got the legislative, it's all one. It's all one. So you can put that proposal together, but for a sheriff's office to have a proposal to maintain the level of benefits or something like a specific level of benefits when they don't have control over that is inappropriate, and it's actually been vacated a couple times in the state of Ohio where that type of stuff's going on. So that's kind of who I am. That's what I do, and that's my breadth of experience. And I hope that
Do
that
you
eases any
have a
concerns.
staff that maybe takes care of the menial things? I mean, or do you do everything?
Well, I will tell you what, I try to operate in the most efficient way possible. You know, we don't bill for staff time. I don't bill for my secretaries or anything like that. That's the cost of doing business to us.
Okay.
When I go to a bargaining table, if I bring a second person, we don't both bill for the same hours. If I'm there in a 6-hour negotiation session, I might split the time with somebody because I don't want, you know, somebody to be sitting there for 6 hours. But the primary reason I'm bringing somebody else there to the table is because I want to give them the work off the table because they're cheaper than me. The guy who I usually bring to the table is Kenny Michael, a senior consultant. He does some like negotiations himself. Mike second shares me a lot and goes down. I've also gotten a lot. We've started to do more virtual stuff too, which actually can be much more efficient in the process if you run the right and comfortable with it. And not that there's no need for in-person meetings and things like that. When we do have in-person meetings, we don't bill for travel time. We come out here. We have a minimum when we have a session. That's 4 hours, but I can't say in business not charging travel time for 15 minutes. But what I tell people is, we set up our sessions for, significant blocks of time. That obviously many of them apply in virtual or anything like that. Then obviously the biggest thing is, I would tell you is that we do free telephone consultation on all routine matters. That means what I tell people is when it comes to, and this is kind of the stuff I'm doing now with the sheriff's office. When you have a question about the contract, I've got a copy of your contract, you got a copy of your contract, you got your grievance, you pick up the phone and call, let's talk through it, let's figure out what our response is going to be, what your response is going to be, and it's all no charge. Why? Because it's a lot easier and a lot cheaper to stop Humpty Dumpty from falling off the wall than have to pick them up and put them back together again and put them back up there. And there are times where we could do something under a labor contract, but the question is just because you can do something, should you? Because of the long-term effects of things. And that's kind of in our first discussions with the OPPA out there. That's kind of the approach we've taken. And hopefully we get some buy-in with the administration and the approach. And we'll just go from there. Do you have any other questions for me? I'm doing a lot of talking.
That's
I
right.
can keep talking.
No.
I'd like them to plug you in and keep going and give us the facts. So it's,
Yeah, I mean, it's all, I will tell you that, I don't know if you guys I traditionally approach collective bargaining for any county client because of our pattern bargaining, wanting to do, don't want to upset your apple cart. Especially if you've done something before, done something with different office holders, and you have said that that's what the pattern should be. Something within that pattern. I don't know if that's happened, because I haven't had a discussion with you guys yet. From an insurance language standpoint, obviously, anything that Janet or somebody else tells me that this is our language as a town is. The most important thing for me, the sheriff's contract insurance language or any contract insurance language that embraces what I just communicated to you about the ability of the board to change from year to year to year, not just trigger these kind of these obstacles of, well, if you're going to change, we're going to sit down, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I mean, that's the language has to do that. But beyond that, if the board were to have any hot button issues that it feels needs addressed, obviously the sheriff's office is kind of the operational side of things, but if there were things that from a county pattern, what's wrong with that, and if there was address that, obviously do that on the sheriff's behalf, make sure the contract is from the fiscal standpoint meets your needs. Another question.
Can't think of any.
No. I don't have any.
Killing me.
No, you did good. You did good. And that's it.
I hope so. I mean, my goal is to deliver something you guys be happy with.
And you're familiar with Janet, who's our HR person?
Yes, Janet, I have that.
Okay, and then another one you'll need to familiarize yourself with is Mr. Brad.
Over your left shoulder.
Yep, and the mask.
Okay.
And then Janet will, if this is the route we go, will be extensively involved in
Okay,
any
great.
meetings. She will be expected to be there, and then, we set the parameters for salaries and stuff. It comes from here.
I understand.
And that's why you'll familiarize yourself with Mr. Bragg. Sheriff can, he handles the policy side. Again, if the policy change has a financial impact, then again, you would come back to us and to Mr. Bragg.
I will tell you that is, you guys have the purse strings. So
Yeah.
that's the way it works. And I unfortunately have had to tell elected officials sometimes that, when they want to, do something with the vacation schedule or something else, I just have to say, look, there's no reason for us to do that here, because the direction I've gotten from the board is it's going to be down the arrival. Why waste our time? So.
And they understand. I mean, all the elected officials, and directors, they want to take good care of their people, and we do too. It's just sometimes we can, sometimes it's
I
not
mean, that's,
feasible.
Janet could probably communicate to me what your parameters are. Or, if you want to executive session with us to talk more fully about things. Some of the things that I've seen over recently, and these are big challenges, involve police, fire, safety forces. Police in particular, because God knows it's hard enough to be a police officer these days. Get screwed through. But also tremendous liability side of things too. Like you guys had, for some reason, you don't have top-notch, best training or whatever it is. But I have tried to figure ways to stretch dollars for a lot of departments. And sometimes it involves restructuring of wage packages and wage scales. Sometimes to lengthen things. And we can get into all that when we talk about the financial scope of the package we want to improve. Again, absolutely, Commissioner, I understand what you're saying about trying to make sure that we take the long perspective. And give me a crack if I ever get out of there. But I promise you I won't. Anything else?
That's it, sir. I can't think of anything. Thank
Thank you
you.
for coming in.
Thank
You
you
got
very
a
much.
card you want to leave?
Yeah, I've got multiple cards.
Okay.
So, I think.
You can slide it
Do I need
on.
to slide them underneath?
You want to give me a couple, I'll pass it
Yeah,
over
you
to
pass it
Tony,
around.
John.
I think you've seen this one before, Commissioner. I don't know if that's a deep.
Can you, like, one
Yeah,
more?
I got it.
Thank you. Janet, you got one?
I'll take one again.
Todd, do you want one?
All right.
As long as we've got it all, yeah.
Okay,
Janet will-
very good. All right, well, thank you for coming in today. We
Okay.
appreciate it.
All
Thank you,
right.
Larry.
Fantastic.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mike.
Larry.
All right.
I'll take one more. I don't think that's cheese.
Hey,
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too.
All right.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hey,
Nice seeing you.
no problem. Do you know where they're
Okay,
at?
guys.
You guys have
Versus
new contracts?
share some.
For
comments
who?
and-
Who?
I was just talking about the site, you know,
FBI
talking about
office,
patterns.
and
Is like the sheriff sit at the back
County
end of the
Commissioner.
pattern, just, or does he sit at the
For what?
front end, in the middle?
Janet would know that.
So you did.
I said, hey, I
Good.
the front end.
For this year,
Yeah.
this year he's at the back just because we waited.
Yeah.
Until the new
Sure.
sheriff. but
Okay.
we're not
I mean, we
Well, that makes
finished,
things easy. It does, honestly. It
we
makes
finished
it a
a
lot
lot
easier.
of resources, we finished
Yeah, and the dog
solid
board.
waste, we finished the dog board just today.
Okay,
Well,
great.
the solid waste is still.
Oh, solid waste is
still,
still,
yeah,
yeah.
but we finished water
We can talk,
resources.
we can talk about that. I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Is there anything else to come before the board today?
Are you gonna, you almost done?
Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Roll call?
Vicky,
Yes.
Tony,
yes.
Sabrina.
Yes.